Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here. In today's video, I'm going to talk about booms in Pokemon. In 2020, call it a boom, call it a bubble, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to talk about the perfect storm that led to that and all the conversations that abound about when and how will we boom next? When and how will we board a rocket ship to the moon next? I think it's quite a crazy conversation, and I'll detail why in this video because so many aspects lead me to believe that we're still in a major boom. Prices aren't bubbly. Prices aren't like the bubble has burst. It was a bubble, it burst, but we're in a healthier place because of it. And people just really have this weird, unrealistic expectation, I think, for what prices of their cards will do, whether they're investors, speculators, flippers, whoever. Obviously, I benefited greatly from what the prices did in 2020. But yeah, multiple reasons why I don't think we'll ever see a boom or bubble, super bubble like it ever again. And yeah, that's the topic of the video. Let me switch to a little bit of conversation, a little bit of data about why I think we're currently still in a boom and why we won't see another one. A lot of people will point to maybe the 30-year anniversary. It's usually an anniversary or a celebrity or a new game, virtual reality, whatever the thing is. Just a little bit of reasons why I won't think it will ever recreate the perfect storm of 2020. But let me have a little conversation towards the fact that I think we're still living in a boom, and it's crazy to me that people don't see it, don't feel it. I think we're in a much healthier place though, in a boom, but not such a bubbly boom, if that makes any sense. Here's just a video game sales wiki that I found, and by year it has sales of video games for each system. You can see red, green, blue is kind of where we peaked. 31 million sales on down. They do lump together, like all the red, yellow, green, blue remakes are lumped in here. So this isn't just the 96, 98 releases. This is Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee for the Switch was lumped in as well. But on down, you can see Pokemon Sword and Shield sold 24.27 million units, and Sun and Moon does show 25, but that's lumping in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. If you just compare it to where Sun and Moon were in 2016, 16 million, so up 50% from there. Significantly over X and Y as well, significantly over Black and White. Like, we are in peak ultra modern, both video game. And then I didn't pull up any data for this, but everyone who watches any of my content, who watches any content on YouTube around Pokemon, 9.1 billion cards printed last year. 9.1 billion out of the 40 something billion total. Over 20% of the Pokemon cards printed in the entire duration of the franchise were printed in the past 12 to 18 months. Mind blowing. And then look at what the prices of Ultra Modern booster boxes are doing. You've got Evolving Skies nearing 200 a box after how many reprints? You've got every main set box, I want to say, is at least 90 bucks. Maybe there's a couple in the mid 80s, but there's no situation where there's 69.99 shipped like we saw Crimson Invasion, like we saw Evolutions for a little bit. So all the things that are going on, some of the Moonbreon, the prices that's able to achieve reprint after reprint, and I'll even show too, not only has greater than 20% of all the cards been produced in the past 12 to 18 months, greater than 20% of all the cards PSA has graded have been graded in the past 12 to 18 months as well. PSA is graded somewhere between 40 and 50 million total cards. They're grading 12.8 million a year at their current pace, roughly 1 million a month, you can see here. So yeah, they're doing 12 million a year on less than a 50 million history. I mean, that's 25% of similar to the similar ratio to the card production. In spite of this, in spite of all these cards being produced, boxes are holding at 90 plus. Evolving Skies holding at 200. Look at what Eevee Heroes is doing. Look at what all these cards are doing. How can you look at the market we're in and think it's not a boom? How are people existing in today's market asking when the next boom is coming? Blows my mind. The bubble has popped though. I will say that. Here's a Pokedata.io chart. This one specifically, I'm going to show a few. This one specifically is on the base set first edition PSA 9 Charizard. I remember buying and selling them all the way back. Like, this only goes back to 2017, where it starts at about 1,500. I remember selling my first one for 1,000, and that was probably back 2014, 2015 timeframe, probably 2015. But anyways, late 2019, early 2020, the card has historically, since I've been in the hobby, had healthy growth. This is what healthy growth looks like, due to further growth of the hobby, further engagement, further just collectors, some investors, some flippers, everyone was in it too, but it was all like rational and reasonable. So yeah, from 2016 October 1,500, it tripled. It tripled between 2016 and 2019 over a 3-year span. That is strong, fast growth. That is really, really fast growth. What happened though in 2020 was just unreasonable. 2020 into 2021, you went from 5,000 at the new year approximately to 50,000. To 50,000 less than a year later. That was a bubble. That was a super bubble. That was absolutely insane. And why I think it will never be replicated, and why I hope it never will be replicated, it was a perfect storm. It was a perfect storm of kind of bad things. The pandemic. The pandemic was a large fuel of it. All the shortages, the closure of PSA, the closure of so many, all the logistics of shipping and all those kinds of major logistics that the wider world felt. But on top of that, due to the pandemic, everyone was in. The Pokemon was receiving more attention than ever, because no one could put their attention to going out to the movies, going out to the ball game, going out. Like, people were just online and getting free money from the government. And then add in the fact that PSA had to shut down for some amount of time. Then they had to shut down for the tsunami of submissions they received. A perfect storm. No one could arbitrage. And to be fair, a PSA 9 base first Charizard, if you look at the pop report, it did go up a ton, but it didn't go up as substantially as some other cards that could have been arbitraged more reasonably. Like, there's a Zapdos. Let me do my favorite, the PSA 10 first edition Jungle Pikachu. So, had it not been for all the shortages, had it not been for the backlog at PSA, if you could have submitted this card for $50 and gotten it back within a month, as you historically always could, as we're getting close to getting back, right now, if you submit a card at the $50 tier, you're getting it back. I did the special delivery Charizard at $150, and I got it back in about a week. And I did a $50 tier that I recently showed on a live that came back, I want to say, I forget now, 4 to 6 weeks maybe. So if and when you could turn cards around in a month for $50, this would have never happened. This was not healthy. This was not sustainable. This is not something I'm ever aiming for again. But to me, it feels like everyone is. Like, I come from a world of traditional investments, traditional finance. 7% per year after inflation is an amazing growth rate. 7% per year after inflation is a double up every decade. Doubling every decade to me is like very, very good. If I could see that in the Pokemon hobby moving forward over the next few decades, that to me would be like very, very healthy and very, very, I would be excited. I would be happy with that performance. But I feel like, I mean, again, pre-boom, pre-bubble, we saw a triple up over 3 years in a lot of these cards. The base first Charizard went from 1,500 to 5,000, little over a triple up. Pikachu went from 28 to 56, so a double up for a card that honestly doesn't have great fundamentals. It's a great card. Everyone likes Pikachu, but there's a lot of them. There's literally millions of them, and there's only a little over 10,000 graded, it looks like. Maybe not even quite 10,000 graded. So yeah, 2020 was a perfect storm. I think PSA will be more proactive in the future. If and when things start to get bad, if and when the backlog starts to grow, I think they will cut off the low tiers, anything sub 20, sub 30, sub 50, whatever the number has to be. They will make it accessible so that if people need to, and you can say like PSA was open technically the whole time that they were closed, you could turn cards around in under a month, but I believe it was about 3 I think for a short period it was $600, and then for a while it was also $300 or more. No one was crazy enough, or maybe a few people were, but I was not crazy enough to try to spend $300 to grade what is a $2 raw card to sell it for $700 in a PSA 10. Because a PSA 9 at the time, if you had missed the 10, PSA 9 looks like it did peak around 200 or 300, but the window was so short, and I think a lot of people like me saw the writing on the wall. It was such a common topic. It's still a topic today. People should never forget the PSA 10 first edition Jungle and Pikachu, $1,000 cards. But yeah, I don't foresee those ever happening again, because I think PSA will operate in a more reasonable fashion and react quicker to changes in demand. But yeah, to me, look at how far we've come. And for people to be asking when the next boom is happening, the two prior 2 to 3 year periods in our history as a hobby, wipe out the bubble, pretend the bubble didn't happen, cut that whole top off, take the bubble aside, look at prices on January 1st, 2020. Any card, pick any card in the hobby. I don't think you'll find anything that is lower. Not only that, I don't think you'll find anything that hasn't doubled. I mean, here's the Charizard I was looking at. It's gone from 5K to 20K. Quadruple in a 2-year span what it was. Sure, it's fallen 60, 70%. Pikachu's fallen 80. Some cards have fallen 90%. But still, if you look back, it was 50, it was 40, 50. Now it's 170. That's still a card that is being opened every day in box breaks. That's still a card that is raw mint in so many tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of binders across the country. And it's selling for $170 in a PSA 10. A card that raw, this actually has raw pricing. It's probably more expensive than I think raw. Yeah, it's not $2. It's $9.80 apparently by this. And that would be raw near mint on TCG Player, not necessarily PSA 10. But trust me, if every single Pikachu in the world that existed in 10 condition, whether it's sealed in a pack, in a box, or whether it's in someone's binder, if all those could be instantly graded today, they never will be, only a fraction of them ever will be, that population could be 500,000 cards. It never will be, but that's how many exist out there in the wild in gem mint condition still. Confidently, I can say that. So a card like that to be $157, modern booster boxes to be anywhere between $90 and $200, while 9.1 billion cards are being printed. Why are we looking for the next boom? We're in it. We're still living in a boom. There are so many opportunities. There are so many places to make money. If you're buying a card, putting it away, investing in it, and just waiting to lazily waiting for it to 10x for you in a matter of 6 months like it did in 2020, I think you're going to have a bad time. I do not think that will happen again. The pandemic, Logan Paul, the broader shipping and the grading situation, the broader issues that globally happened. Sourcing, I mean, PSA sourcing and getting cases. There were cases where VGA, kind of unrelated but kind of related, didn't even have cases for certain products that they were grading, yet they were taking them in, building the backlog. And now that the backlog's being unleashed, PSA is unleashing over 1 million cards a month, and we've only fallen to a place of triple or quadruple where we were 2 years ago. It's insane that we're doing as well as we are. All that said, I think we could go down from here. We could absolutely go down from here. I think we'd have a very hard time for most cards revisiting 2019 prices, but broader economics, this is not financial advice, this is not tax advice, anything like that, but the broader economy, if we go deep into a recession multi-year, if we go deeper into a depression, some very old prices you could get nostalgic for some of the prices you start seeing. My hope is that we don't go there, but yeah, for anyone to look today and to feel like we're not in a boom still, to feel like we're not in a healthier place than we were 2 years ago, when these charts were up here, this was not reasonable, this was not sustainable, this was not healthy. And honestly, it looks crazy in hindsight. There were not that many data points. If you really were to zoom in, and maybe I'll do this in a future video, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see it. not many people sold $1,000 EVs. Not many people sold $1,000 Pikachus. Some people might look back and say, "Oh my God, I could have became a millionaire." Some people did become millionaires from the boom, um, but not like everybody. Not everybody had the inventory. A lot of people sold out on the way up, and they were happy to sell out on the way up at 50% above what market was a month prior. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I guess it might have gotten a little ranty there, but there's just some data. I mean, just to recap, we've got, I'm interested to see the sales numbers of Scarlet and Violet. I love that we get, I love that we get both production numbers, sales numbers of video games. And I love that we also get production numbers. We haven't had them for our whole history, and we don't get them as granular as we'd like. We'd like to know Japanese versus English. We'd like to know sets versus pre-constructed decks. We'd like to know Evolving Skies versus Astral Radiance. We're never going to get that, I don't think, but we still get an annual number every year from the Pokemon Company, 9.1 billion last year. In spite of all that, in spite of everything that's gone on, in spite of PSA, Pokemon having printed 20% of all Pokemon cards ever printed in the past 12 to 18 months, PSA having introduced 20 to 25%, not of just the Pokemon slabs ever graded. It's actually more drastic than that. I should pull up Pokemetrics quick. But yeah, plastic overall, slabs overall, like not just Pokemon, PSA has introduced more than 25% of like all the slabs ever graded in the past 12 to 18 months, and they've been around for 30 years. Pokemon's printed greater than 20% of all the cards ever produced in this past 12 to 18 months, and they've been around for 25 years. So all this stuff, and yet we've still doubled, tripled, quadrupled prices on most things. Some things didn't get so bubbly on the way up. I mean, some things haven't fallen a bit from their highs. Let me find the stats though. So yeah, as of today, shout out Pokemetrics. There are this is literally as I record this. I'm recording this on Saturday night, 10 o'clock. 4.85 million graded Pokemon cards in existence. PSA only. There's also CGC, BGS, all the other basement grading card companies. Of those 4.8 million, 2.73 million have been introduced in the past year, the past 52 weeks. That is astronomical. Gemray actually does a good. Let me quickly. Sorry, I didn't get this pulled up beforehand. Let me quickly find Gemrate's monthly overview for August. That's something completely unrelated. But yeah, in spite of us going from 2.1 million Pokemon cards graded 1 year ago to 4.85 million graded with PSA, we've more than doubled the population of plastic out there. And prices have come down a ton from the bubble. That was a bubble though. That was a perfect storm, black swan, whatever you want to call it. Something that hopefully we never replicate again. But for some reason, people are hung up wanting to replicate it. What celebrity can come in to 10x my cards? What collaboration can Pokemon do? What movie can they make? What VR game can they make to make all my plastic 10x? I don't understand the sentiment of wanting that because it's not healthy. And I don't think it's remotely reasonable to expect or hope for it. And look at what Pokemon is doing. I found what I was looking for. August alone, there was 275,000 new Pokemon cards graded. So as I said, from Gemray, it's 2.7 million over the past year, but higher proportion. I mean, 275K in a month extends out to something like 3.5 million over a year. So we're likely to get more over the next year. As the backlog unwinds and as we go into the $18 to $30 tier, there will be an interesting dynamic to see how it all plays out. Maybe we'll go back to a ratio where it's more favored towards sports. But yeah, you can see here, In August alone, there were, well, here's July. Yeah, so August they graded 900,000 cards. July they graded 1,000,000 cards, 1,000,000 cards total. The amount of plastic that's being brought out and prices still holding where they are, it's phenomenal in my opinion. Boxes being where they are, we're in the boom still. At the end of the day, we're in the boom still. If you think we're not, if you think if you're waiting for the next boom and you think it's going to happen and you think I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below what you think is going to bring it about. If we're not in a boom, tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me how are these numbers lying to me. We're selling not as high as base Pokemon Red, Yellow, Blue, not that high, but we're selling near record levels of video games. We're selling near record levels of Pokemon cards, and we're grading massive record levels of PSA graded cards, and prices are still holding where they are. So if you're looking for the next boom, the current one hasn't ended. It's just gotten to a healthier place. That's how I'm gonna wrap it up. So as always, all the links down below. Check me out on Instagram. I'm actually gonna be live tomorrow. And this is a Pokemon video. I'm advertising a MetaZoo live tomorrow, but I'll be live tomorrow with a spoiler from Seance. I'm getting a digital image of a card that I will be showing on stream, and I'll be doing some openings and just hanging out, talking about MetaZoo. So yeah, I appreciate everyone watching, and I will catch you all later.